Welcome to the Grow Fast podcast, where we talk with leading sales, marketing, and personal growth experts about how companies can accelerate sales, optimize marketing, and grow their businesses fast. Let's go. Hi, Stacey. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Great. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Hey, I'm out in sunny Seattle, Washington. Whereabouts are you located?
Right now, I'm outside of Montreal, Quebec.
Wow, cool. I heard the summers there are pretty amazing.
Yeah, we split our time between here and Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire.
Nice. So, Lake Winnipesaukee. That's a mouthful.
Yes.
Sounds beautiful though.
Yeah, it's really pretty. I love it. I've been going there since I was a baby. And we just recently built our lake house there. So we're just spending as much time as possible there.
Awesome. One of my favorite family movies of all time is On Golden Pond.
Yes, it's like right near where I go. I drive right past there on the way to my house.
Really?
Yes, it's such a good movie.
It is. It's a great movie. And I think that was a big part of Americana. I don't know how much it is now, but you have a summer house, a cabin, something like that, and you go back to it year after year after year. And that's kind of the constant. And it's kind of nice to have those kind of places. So.
Yeah. No, it's for us, it's really special because we have 3 girls and they all want to come. So that's so special for us. And then this weekend we're having my husband's sister and all her kids come. So it's going to be like a huge, huge thing next weekend.
Awesome. Well, hey, first off, thank you for coming on the Grow Fast podcast. I'm looking forward to our conversation because you've got a lot of experience helping your clients achieve business growth. And one of the things that I read says that you help your clients achieve, very impressive growth without all the hustle and bustle. So I'm really fascinated, like how companies or people can grow their businesses and kind of scale back on the hustle. But before we talk about that or jump into that, maybe you can just take a few minutes and introduce yourself and give us your background.
Sure. I've been coaching entrepreneurs for over 20 years now. Mm-hmm. As a business growth strategist to help them see how to grow. I recently added on AI certification. So I'm a certified AI consultant. Mm-hmm. And in my path, I really was lucky because I got a chance to work with Chet Holmes, the author of The Ultimate Sales Machine. Mm-hmm. And then his business partner, Tony Robbins. I went on to work with them as vice president of consulting for business mastery. So it's been really great to learn from all these great mentors and be able to bring that all to my clients as well. My thing is really helping entrepreneurs grow, like you said, without the hustle. And that mm-hmm. came from my dad passed away at 56 years old. So it was really kind of, like they say, those painful moments either like put people into, depression and just like going down a rabbit hole that way, or it can lead to growth and change. And that luckily for me, I was able to take that and really realized that he hadn't done a lot of the things on his bucket list that he wanted to do. He didn't spend the time he wanted to with his family. So that's where, my mission of giving entrepreneurs back to their families really came from.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, they're very hands-on, and it's like they have to be involved with every aspect of the business. Some classic entrepreneurial kind of missteps are, the reluctance or the inability to delegate. Because, if you build something up and it's all yours, it's your baby. It can be challenging to scale because it's hard to let go. So, talk to me about like the types of, the different types of entrepreneurs you work with and some of the challenges that you see them face.
Yeah. So I generally work with entrepreneurs that are the owners of their business, but they don't have a big marketing team. So mm-hmm. they're trying to a lot of times do the marketing or the sales themselves. And then they've shifted into hiring salespeople, but they don't have their brain downloaded into their salespeople. And so they're struggling with that. They don't mm-hmm. have the marketing that sets up the salespeople for success. And so that's the point where, they're so passionate about what they do. They're an expert at what they do, but they don't know how to market what they do. They don't know how to sell what they do. Mm-hmm. And so that's where they have to take a step back. And my job is to really pull that out of their brain so that we can then set up the strategic positioning that sets them apart from their competitors.
Can you walk me through like a couple case studies of, companies? You don't have to give the exact names, but you could talk about the type of business they are, the industry they're in, the number of employees, and, how you came in and acted as a kind of a catalyst.
Yeah, sure. So in one case, most of my clients, they're in a state that they're competing as a commodity, right? So they are putting out, like in your business, requests for a proposal, and they're just competing on price. And so when we start working together, we really look at, in this one case, it was a logistics company, and we looked at, how could he set himself apart when he's competing against $100 million companies, $1 billion companies that have sales reps that are smiling and dialing all day long.
Right.
And so what we looked at is, who was his perfect client and what was their challenge, and then what was their biggest want. And what we realized was that there was a breakdown in their case of, they would have this huge long sales cycle. And at the end of the sales cycle, the logistics company would really just mess it all up. Right. So in their case, their perfect client had spent all this time and energy to do the marketing, to do the sales, to go from like a 6-month to a 5-year sales cycle, to have the logistics company mess it up. So what we looked at is, how can we position that we're going to help you have the logistics be a value add in your sales process? And so that was really exciting because they were able to go from 6 to 8 figures for, positioning that much better and win accounts that, have been multi-million-dollar per year accounts that have stayed with them for over a decade.
That's pretty impressive. You said you'd worked with Chet Holmes, with Tony Robbins' organization. So I'm sure you've seen either in those organizations or just out, with the customers that you work with, you've seen some really good examples of successful salespeople, and you probably also have seen some examples of not so successful ones. When it comes to successful salespeople, what are some of the key traits that you've seen?
Well, it's interesting because Chet had a very interesting take on this, and I was lucky enough to be the second person that Chet hired, so I got mentored by him directly. And his feeling was that salespeople needed to have 2 things: ego and empathy. And I think what happens is people tend to hire for one or the other. And sometimes they bounce between the two because they've had somebody with a big ego. So then the next time they go with somebody with a lot of empathy. But you really need somebody that has both, because when you have somebody with too much ego, they're going to go out there and like really be a shark and crush the sales process, but they might burn the customer relationship because they overpromise, they underdeliver, they don't have that attention to follow through. They don't care for the client as much as a business owner would want, especially if a business owner is in the place that they're going from doing the sales themselves to hiring a sales team. They want to make sure that the person also has that empathy so that the client is cared for. And so if you get somebody with too much empathy, they're just too friendly. They're too, they're not going forward and making the sale and closing it as much as you would like. So that's where, if you have both, then you are able to have somebody that can go out there. They have that ego, so that if they get a no, they just brush themselves off and go back out there. But they have the empathy that they connect with people. And then they also care once the person says yes. It's not like, okay, I'm on to the next person.
Makes a lot of sense, both for selling outside the organization, but I'd also say like inside of organizations, if you have somebody with too much ego, they can kind of be a bull in a china shop. So you need somebody who can navigate the internal kind of, dynamics and get things done. But you also don't want to just, cause chaos every time you close a deal or something. So my question would be, though, can you teach or coach ego or empathy?
Well, that's a good question, because I think you have to have some of those inside of you innately, and then you can coach people to pull out different skills, right? So if somebody is a high ego person, then you want to coach them on the skills of listening. You want to coach them on the skills of having follow-up. You want to coach them on customer service to make sure that they're not just like leaving every client in the dust, or even sometimes they're leaving prospects in the dust. If they don't see a sale right away, they're just like, oh, they burn that relationship because the ego is too high. Right. And then on the other side, if somebody has a lot of empathy, then you're going to try to look at, okay, you have a lot of empathy, which is a great thing. Let's use that care and listening to serve the client into choosing your solution as the solution they go with. So I think it's working with the personality traits and then putting the sales skills to help them improve.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I think just having that conversation and creating some awareness, you're like, you know what? I never really thought about it in the context of ego, empathy, but sometimes, just becoming aware that these are kind of important factors. And then if people are self-aware at all, hopefully it helps them kind of just maybe kind of go start, making progress in the right direction. What other things do you see from successful salespeople? I mean, what you're saying is a healthy balance of ego and empathy. Any other particular skills or traits that you've noticed?
Well, it's really a get up and, when you fall, you get back up. My daughter was a national level gymnast. And so I remember when she was really little, she was like 7 or 8. And we had a new head coach that came in from Romania, which they're known for their excellent gymnastics. And she said, "Oh, I think your daughter could go national." And we're like, "Really? She's not that, she wasn't very graceful. She wasn't doing, very well at gym." And she said, "Yeah," she said, "Your daughter, when she goes on the balance beam, none of the other coaches pay attention, but she said she goes on the balance beam. She doesn't move. She falls off. And instead of going to the back of the line, she just pops herself right back up on the balance beam." And she said she does that over and over and over. So she gets a lot more goes at the balance beam than anybody else. And she's not afraid. And I think for a successful salesperson, you have to have that balance beam mentality that like you are going to fall. People are going to hang up. People are going to say mean things. But the thing is you can't take it personally. You just have to like bounce back faster, just hop back on faster. And that's going to make the difference in your success.
Get the reps in,
Yeah.
learn from any experience you have, reflect on it, say, hey, what can I learn from this? It's all good stuff. But when you're going in and you're helping your customers, do you help them with the hiring process as well?
Yeah, a little bit. It's not my primary focus, but we do. A lot of them want to use this process that Chet lays out in the Ultimate Sales Machine book of screening for both the empathy and ego, which they do kind of bring me in as a hired gun at the end to test for that.
And how do you do that? I mean, what do you look at? Is there a test, or is it just kind of?
It's in the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine.
Okay.
So I would definitely suggest people grab it. But it's really looking at like their empathy of like having them talk about what they've done in their life, maybe their family or friends, how people would describe them, and then at the end, I reject everybody. So they bring me in to be the mean person.
Okay.
And so I'm rejecting the salesperson and say, you know what? I'm just not hearing top producer. I'm sorry. We're really only looking for one person at this point. And what will happen is if somebody is a top producer, they'll be like, really? Oh, I'm surprised you say that because I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. And if somebody just rolls up and says, "Oh, okay, thanks for the call," then you're like, okay, I dodged a bullet there. Don't hire them.
Yeah. Wow. Well, your secret's out of the bag now. So, hey.
That's it. Well, and it's been out. I mean, that book has been out for years, but I'm telling you, if top salesperson has not read that book,
they should.
They're missing out.
Yeah. Wow. So tell me else, what else you do, like when you go in and you coach because you mentioned earlier, and I don't think we kind of finished that part of the conversation, scaling without the hustle. So, what things can business leaders do to grow their business, but live a more relaxed life?
Yeah. So first of all, we start with lifestyle design. Like, what does that look like to have success in your business and also in your life, right? So, some of my clients, they want to go hiking a few times a week. Some of them want to be there for family members that, are aging. Some of them have kids that they want to be there for. So we really paint that picture of what that looks like so that we know, like, you're kind of putting the guardrails on your business of like, okay, they say the time expands to the amount of time, work expands to the amount of time you have. So putting those guardrails in place is really important to make sure that happens. And then what we do is usually we look to see where there's hidden profits in their business. So those are areas that you can quickly increase your revenue that goes directly to bottom line profit without doing more marketing.
Can you give an
So
example?
those are quick wins. I'm sorry?
Can you give an example?
Yeah. So, for example, the upsell strategy, right? Do you want fries with that? So
Right.
that's a strategy that a lot of people have heard about, but the thing is, it's just like diet and exercise. People have heard about it, but they're not doing it. Right. And so what I'll do is I'll look through what they're doing in their processes in their sales and their marketing. And that upsell is one that people are usually not doing at all. And in one case, I had a client who had a company. It was an auto parts store. He had recently had a lot of national level businesses come in. And so he was really struggling with the competition. And he had a bunch of people that were his employees that were older. They were like 70 and 80 years old. And they weren't doing anything he said. They were really, and so when I first did the intake, I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to help him like get rid of some dead weight here. And when we got on his first call, he said, well, I can't get rid of anybody because these are family members and they're also people that go to my church. So I can't let go of anybody.
Yeah.
So we did the upsell strategy and he increased his business by 48% in 1 month from one question. And this was during the recession. So considering he had new competitors in his space, he had very resistant employees. It was a huge win.
No, that's awesome. And I think that's really cool of what, some fresh eyes or just somebody from the outside coming in and saying, have you thought about doing this? Or why do you do that? So explaining it. Well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, why? So, and just having a new perspective can really help and uncover some stuff like that. What I've coached salespeople on, because I've led sales teams in a variety of different markets, is you look for the upsell or look for other opportunities. So after the deal is done and where everybody's and value has been acknowledged, then say something like, is there anybody else in your organization I should be reaching out to? And that's a little bit vague, but at least I've said in your organization. Sometimes I'll take a look at somebody's LinkedIn profile and say, hey, I noticed that you used to work for ABC company. Would you be open to making an introduction to one of your former colleagues there? And
that's a good one.
Yeah. And more often than not, I mean, the worst thing they can say is no. No,
right. I like that. So you're reaching up in the existing organization and back for the old organization.
Yeah. Why not? Why not ask? Right. I mean, and if 1 out of 5 gives you that warm introduction, I tell you what, I'll take that warm introduction over 100 cold calls any day of the week, right? So,
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's also doing that on a regular basis. So like, for example, with one of my clients, it's not just their sales team that's doing it, but it's also their ops team that's doing it. So the ops team is fulfilling the sale, the service, but they're also saying, oh, well, what else do you have going on? What else is happening? So they're also looking for those opportunities. And in the case of one of my clients, like they just are adding another whole line of business, over $1.5 million a year, just from going back into that organization and finding another place that they could add value. So
that's
definitely
awesome.
Keep digging into the organization.
And do you recommend providing some type of incentive for those ops people? Because, salespeople, they're like, hey, the more I sell, the more I make. Ops people are like, the more you sell, the more work I have. I mean, that's kind of, you see those kind of mindsets there. Is there a way to get them on board or in line with that?
Yeah, absolutely. In this case, their owner of the company is very, I want to say abundance mentality. Like the more he makes, the more everybody makes. So he has really nice bonuses, even for the ops people based on sales.
That's awesome. You recently wrote a book, right?
Yeah, it's coming out in the fall.
Awesome. It's Hidden Profits, More Clients and Cash.
Yes.
Tell me more.
Yes. So this actually came out of when I was working with Tony Robbins. He did an event called Business Mastery. He and Chet formed Business Mastery together before Chet passed away. And Tony was doing audience work where, somebody stands up and gets coaching. And the guy stood up and said, Tony, and this was at the beginning of the recession. And he said, Tony, I've tried everything and nothing works. Now, can you imagine saying that to Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
You're like, everybody in the audience is like, this is not going to go so well.
No. You've tried everything. Absolutely everything.
Yeah, everything. Nothing works. Yeah. So Tony said to him, he said, well, Tony gets into his curious mode and he said, well, what have you tried? And the guy said, 2 or 3 things. And Tony's like, well, that's not everything. So how many times have you tried it? You must have tried it a lot of times. And he said, well, I've tried a few times. And he said, well, what happened? He said, I ran out of money. I didn't have the time. So Tony said to him, and this was the thing that got me. He said, well, have you ever seen an immigrant that's come to this country with less than you have, like less contacts, no credit, no English skills, no money, and they're more successful than you? And the guy said, yeah, you see them all the time, like in Entrepreneur or Forbes. And he said, well, what was the difference is those people that came to this country and are more successful, they didn't have more resources than you. They were more resourceful. So it's not about the resources in your business. It's about your resourcefulness. So that just made me go ding, 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 ding in my head. And I wrote it down. And at that point, a lot of my clients were really struggling because of the fact that the recession hit and their financing dried up, sales, got canceled. I mean, it was like really a rapid, like the revenue went way down very quickly out of their control. And so they didn't want to spend more money on marketing. That wasn't the solution. So I said, how can I be more resourceful for my clients? And that's where the book Hidden Profits came from, is like, what can they do to rapidly increase their revenue and go directly to their bottom line profits that doesn't take more marketing? So for example, the upsell strategy was a very good one to actually say, like, if you have a client now, instead of the deal being worth 10,000, let's make the deal be worth 15,000. Right. And so we looked at all of these points in their business that they could make more without doing any more marketing.
That's awesome. Can you give some other examples of where else they can look? Yeah.
So in another one, one of my clients, this is what I call the $700,000 mistake.
Okay.
And he canceled his coaching session, which doesn't usually happen. And I said, he said, well, I got a new sale. It was $100,000. And usually I'm like, that's fantastic. This is a celebration. And he said, this is not a celebration. And I said, well, what? How can $100,000 sale not be a celebration? He said, because this client has been spending $100,000 a year and he's been going to my competitor for the last 7 years. And he used to be my client. So I was like, wow, that's a painful mistake. So that is where the come on back strategy, it's like, okay, how can we reactivate these clients? Now, the best people at that are dentists, right? Because nobody wants to go back to the dentist. So they're like, get your butt back in the chair. You're due for your cleaning. They'll call you, they'll text you, they'll email you, they'll send a carrier pigeon. So we looked at doing that with my clients because, again, most people listening today have a database of past clients that aren't doing business with them anymore. And what we've discovered is the reason why the salespeople or the business owners don't go back to them is because they're like, oh, they're dealing with somebody else. They're shy. They haven't talked to them in a while. But on the other side, the clients, the prior clients, they're shy too. Right. So it's almost like if you go to get your haircut, and for women, like usually we stay with the same person for a long time. And if we go somewhere else, it's really like shy to go back to the first person. You're like, you cheated on that hairstylist with somebody else. Right. And so the thing is that I asked the hairstylist, I'm like, well, what do you think about that? And they're like, oh, it's fine. We're always welcoming people back if they've gone somewhere else. So, but they're not doing anything to reactivate that client and say, come on back. Like, you've had your color done somewhere else. Don't be shy. Come on back. And so with one of my clients, she was taking my Hidden Profits class and I was teaching this strategy, and it was the worst month of the year for her. Like, she was selling weight loss in January. And she said, oh, I'm going to go do this reactivation, the come on back strategy. And I said, well, this probably isn't your best month to do this, but she was a real implementer. So she's like, I'm going to do it now. She did it and she increased her sales, and she increased her sales 50% over her best month before in the worst month of the year.
Well,
right. And
okay. So I'm going to push back just a little bit. I thought January was a good month for like self-improvement because you got all those New Year's resolutions, right? So,
well, she did it in December.
Oh, okay.
So in December, nobody wants to lose weight because they're having grandma's cookies. They're going to Christmas parties. They're drinking, they're partying, they're eating everything they haven't eaten all year. And she's like, I'm doing it now. I'm not waiting for January.
Okay. Awesome.
So yeah,
That's
she
impressive.
did it in the worst month of the year and
December for
increased her
me is
sales.
just a write-off month. It's a throwaway. It's like there's no way I'm going to do anything except gain weight in December. It's like,
Oh, and that's what people think. And
yeah.
she said, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. And the results were there. So it was a good thing to see it in a market that was a bad month to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would suggest to everybody listening or watching, like, you know, these hidden profits, whether it's upsell, like what can you offer to your list when they have their wallets out? Because when they have their wallets out, they're more likely to buy something else. And look at what's that secondary offer that you can offer to everybody that's buying. And
Mm-hmm.
then on the other side is like the people that haven't done business with you in a while, like what can you offer them to come back and do business with you again?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I think a lot of times we make these assumptions about, oh, I can't go back because she's going to be ticked off that I went to someplace else. Speaking of which, though, I have had experiences where I went back to my beautician or what, I can't remember, what hairstylist, my barber. These days, it's pretty much just a barber.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they notice, they can tell, they're like, oh, somebody else cut your hair, because then they can see, and I'm like, oh man, they got me.
Right. It's different. Yeah.
But they're always happy for you to come back. But I think that we make these assumptions that you know, oh, they haven't reached out. It doesn't matter what business you're in. We haven't, you know, they haven't responded to my emails. They haven't responded to my phone calls. So therefore, it's a no. And I always say, don't make assumptions. You know, they could be, you know, going through personal stuff, professional stuff. They could be in the middle of a move. They could be on vacation. Don't make assumptions, and just say, okay, they didn't respond. I'm going to, you know, put it in there and in my CRM, and 6 weeks later, whatever your time is, reach out again. And it's surprising how many people are like, Mark, I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you, but I had all this stuff going on. I've heard that, I don't know how many times, but in my mind, I was like, God, they must not, you know, they stopped responding to me. What's going on? You know, did I do something
we make
wrong?
up all these stories in our head, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. And that's part of it, is like, we're inventing these stories that are stopping us from getting the growth that we want. And I think, you know, working with Tony, there's a lot of mindset stuff that goes along with all the business strategy. But I think, you know, we're making up that strategy that they don't want to do business with us, when the reality is completely different. And I always say to my clients, you know, the client is top of mind for you, but you're not top of, like, they're your top priority, but you're not their top priority, right? Their top priority is they're moving, they have a product launch, they, you know, they have whatever they're doing. So you just need to keep on top of them and keep dripping on them until it's the right time for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of Tony Robbins, I mean, talk a little bit about what was that? How long ago was that?
Oh, that was, I think it's been about 8 years or so.
8 years. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a while.
I'm sure you've gone through many of his books, courses, you know, what's it like working with him versus going to one of his events?
Yeah. So it was really a kind of a surreal experience for me, because I grew up in a very sales environment. My dad was in sales and marketing, and I read my first sales book when I was in 3rd grade and started selling in 3rd grade.
Awesome. What were you selling?
I sold current stationery to my neighbors. So I bought it wholesale and sold it at retail and funded my trip to go to my aunt's in Maine on an airplane. And then I started selling B2B in 5th grade, and I sold poinsettias to restaurants, and, you know, I went to churches and like sold poinsettias to them to sell to their congregations, and always to fuel travel with that age. I wanted to go see the Olympics in 1984 in LA to see the equestrian event. So I was like, if I'm going to do it, I have to sell it. Like, my parents weren't going to give me the money. So I had always driven around in my car with cassette tapes, you know, that I had Tony sitting on the seat next to me. Right.
Wow.
And so to actually go there in person and work for him, it was amazing, because you got to see his level of care and passion for the results that his clients get. You know, a lot of people like to bash big people online, but it's like, he really does care about the results that his clients. Yeah. He wants to make sales. He wants to grow his business, but he really wants to have people have transformation. And he really wants everybody on board for that as well within the organization. So it was amazing.
I think one of the things that amazes me about him is the level of energy that he has. And, you know, he'll do these all day workshops that'll go on for 2 or 3 days in a row, and then he'll get on a plane and go someplace else and rinse and repeat, right? And business travel by itself can be exhausting, but if you're on stage that whole time and people are feeding off your energy, I just don't know how he does it. But I think everybody, if you're leading a business, if you want to be a super successful salesperson, or you just want, whatever your role is and you want to be successful, having optimizing your energy levels is really important. What advice would you give in terms of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it comes from mindset, right? So first of all, like setting your intention that that's what you're going to do, and then putting some kind of, like we discussed before, the guardrails of like, okay, what am I going to commit to and how am I going to stay on track with this? So there was a book that I really love. Everybody should read. It's called The Power of Full Engagement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Tony Schwartz.
Yeah, they do the Energy Project, I think, as well.
Yeah, that I love that book. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, I always tell my kids and my husband, I'm like, people are paying me for my brain, so I need to take care of my brain, right? Which means having enough to drink, having, healthy foods that don't make you have a crash, getting enough sleep. So really, as an entrepreneur, like looking at your energy as a resource, right? So if you're having your energy as a resource, how would you treat yourself? Like feeding yourself, care of what you're putting in your body. And then like energy, like in between coaching calls, I'll take like a walk around the block here. Like even if it's a 7-minute, like it's a 7-minute circle that I do just to get out in the air, to get in the sunshine. I mean, it could be like minus 30 degrees, but that'll wake you up. Yeah. And it's going to just get that energy going. So, I would say like putting attention on it, right? Because if you don't put the attention on it, then what's going to happen is you're going to see that, oh, I haven't paid attention to my body. I haven't paid attention to my energy or my state. And it'll show up in what's happening in your work and in your life because you haven't paid attention to it.
Totally agree. I think in that book, the Powerful Engagement, I think they make the argument that people think that time is your most valuable asset. And they're like, no, we've all got the same 24 hours. It's your energy. And we have very different energy levels. And if you're not nurturing your energy via, purpose in your life, rest, exercise, diet, all of that stuff, if you're not optimizing that, then you're selling yourself short. I personally, I had a pretty active weekend, and I was doing a lot of stuff outside, and probably not taking care of my diet, and probably drinking a few more beers than I needed to. And Monday was hard. Last night, I went to bed early. I ate just perfectly yesterday, and I went to bed early, got a good night's sleep. I woke up today, I was like, yes! It's like, You're back.
You're back. I can kind of relate to that. And I think weekends have to be considered, right? Because the weekend isn't just the weekend. It rolls over into the beginning part of the week. And we hiked about 7 miles on Saturday.
Awesome.
And that was a big mountainous thing. And then on Sunday, I helped my husband shovel mulch for 3 hours. So I got my lower body and my upper body.
Yes.
And I was like, Monday seems quite relaxing compared to my weekend. Right. So, but yeah, it's like, all right, you need to have some good sleep now and like stretch and all of that so that you feel good.
Absolutely. How do you structure your engagements with your customers, your clients?
Yeah, usually we start with a accelerator, which is like a half day or a full day VIP day that we really do a deep dive into what is stopping them from growing, right? And we prioritize that. So, I mean, some people come to me and they're like, oh, there's 3 things that are stopping me from growing. And some people come with a list of 37 things that are stopping them from growing. But the thing is that we then need to prioritize that, right? So that we know, okay, these are the things, let's put that in priority order. So like, what would be the number one thing that we could address that would help the other things? And then a lot of times what we'll have to do during that, first session is look at what their strategic positioning is, because a lot of them are competing on price. They haven't differentiated themselves in the market. So we'll do that. We also will do their AI, and we'll look at, okay, what are they doing in their company right now that AI could handle? What are some ways that AI could help them optimize what they're doing to get better results? Like, for example, one of the companies I work with, I've worked with all of their sales team on using AI, so that they're using it much more effectively to to move the sales process along faster
Mm-hmm.
and to actually spend less time in the drudgery of salesperson. Usually they're not the greatest at admin and all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
if there's things that they're struggling with to help them do that, then we go into ongoing coaching that then every month I'm helping them. We're doing coaching sessions. They also have access to me on Voxer for in between sessions to get support, or people will go into my mastermind, which is a group setting for coaching.
Talk a little bit more about the AI, the applications of AI, both for the business owner, what tools and applications of AI they can use, and then of course for salespeople.
Yeah. So, I'm really loving it. It's a lot of fun. So one of the things that my business owners, that's a challenge for them, like we had mentioned earlier, was like getting their brain downloaded into their marketing team or their sales team as they're growing, because the owner understands their technology, they understand their process, all of that, and they understand why, they understand their perfect clients, but the people that they hire don't. So one of the tools we've started using is this Plod. So this records, and you can stick it right onto the back of your phone like that. So if you have, sorry, I can't see if you have a sales call, you can record that sales call. So for the salesperson, this is a really great way they have a sales conversation with somebody. They can record that. They can pop that into their CRM. They can make notes. They can make a follow-up email using their custom chat GPT that we've designed for them, so that they're getting what's really important to that prospect down, like they've really heard them. But for the owners, what we do with this Plod is I'll throw it on the table. In fact, I've thrown it on the table with my clients and with my mastermind and had everybody buy one before like 5 minutes was up, because it will take a recording and then it'll transcribe it. Mm-hmm. So what we were able to do, like, for example, if we do a sales meeting or a marketing meeting, we get the wording, we get that intellectual property from that owner's brain so that we can use it in the marketing. So we can use it in the sales process. So for example, if we're talking about what are the frequently asked questions that a prospect would be asking, and have the owner or the top salesperson say what their answer is, then everybody else can use that and duplicate that. Yeah. And then the other thing would be like the should ask questions. What are the SAQs that a prospect should be asking? So if you look at that, that's going to help you differentiate between you and your competitors, because nobody's talking about like, well, what are the questions they should be asking about? Like, so for example, if you were going to hire an AI consultant, you should be asking, does the AI consultant understand how to scale your business? Does your AI consultant understand sales process? Does your AI consultant understand strategic positioning and marketing, versus just hiring an AI consultant that's like, you can do this technical thing that will make it easier in your business, right? Yeah. It's two different mindsets of somebody that's just a tech focused AI person and somebody that's an AI person that's focused on how this can help you with your revenue and your time.
Makes a ton of sense. Let me ask you about your business then. What are your plans? How, do you want to scale your business even beyond what it is right now?
Yeah, it's funny. So I mentioned at the beginning that we just built our lake house on Lake Winnipesaukee. And so that was like my goal that was like the big goal, right? Mm-hmm. To create this home that we're going to have to pass on for generations. And so I kind of felt like a little bit of coasting that went on after that. Mm-hmm. Right. And, I also had some kids, like, my daughter's like going off to college. And so I didn't have that drive to like go. But now like I'm feeling ready again. Like my mm-hmm. energy is there to grow the business again, mm-hmm. And to scale it more. So, the book is coming out in the fall, Hidden Profits, More Clients and Cash. So I'm excited about that. My mastermind is, I actually have two masterminds, one for tech founders who are over $1 million, and then another one for, women entrepreneurs mm-hmm. that are 6 and 7 figures. So I want to do more retreats. I like to do, I would like to do some retreats in Europe so that they're in fun locations. So those are some of the things that are on the drawing board for me.
Awesome. Well, and then what do you do in terms of promoting your business? Obviously, you've written a book. You do podcasts. What else do people who are, because there's a lot of different types of coaches out there. A lot of people are building different consulting practices. What do you think are some of the more, I don't know, what's the word, strategic ways to kind of grow your business?
Yeah. So having strategic alliances, people that will refer you clients, right, is a really good one, because that's easy, because those people as referrals, they already like, know, and trust you. So it's a much easier entryway. Mm-hmm. I will say I do have a little bit different scenario than a lot of people, because my clients stay with me for a long time. So I've had clients that have stayed for 12, 15 years, wow, multiple clients. And so I'm not looking, a lot of coaches start at zero every year, or consultants. And I keep my book of business. So I'm not starting at zero. I'm looking at like, okay, who is the perfect client? And I want it to be an energetic fit, because I don't want somebody as a client that sucks my energy and I dread working with them. Right. So I'm very, cognizant of like, is this person a good match for me? And then I do social media, I do speaking engagements. Those are some of the ways that I promote myself. Awesome.
Well, Stacey, I mean, you've got a tremendous amount of experience. I learned a couple of things from you already today in just this short conversation. But I think a couple, the valuable points is ask for the upsell, see what other value you can deliver to your existing customers, find other ways to optimize those relationships. Hire based upon a healthy combination of ego and empathy, and take care of yourself. That's really important stuff. Any other thoughts you'd like to share with us before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I would say don't just learn, implement. Right? Because I think especially now in the age of information, there's so much information. I mean, you can just sit there all night on your phone and watch YouTube and videos and things. So you have a lot of subscribers to this podcast. And so the question is, Mark's done the hard work of bringing people on here, interviewing them, asking them good questions. At the end of everything that you listen to or watch that Mark brings you, you should be saying, oh, okay, here's my action items. Have I done this? Am I implementing this in my business? So don't just learn, implement.
I think that's some great advice. And I think it's somewhat related to analysis paralysis, where some people, including myself, will spend so much time on the prep or on the study. And really, you got to get out there and, like you said, implement, because that's where the real learning takes place, and you start to make forward progress and get momentum, right? So it's really important.
Yeah, get up on that balance beam and fall off a few times.
Exactly, and then pop back up there. I think when I was doing karate, there was a saying: 7 times down, 8 times up, and so
I love that.
Yeah, just keep going. Well, hey, Stacey. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I thank you so much for coming on the Grow Fast podcast, and I'd like to wish you a great remainder of this amazing summer.
Thank you. You too. Sure. And if people want more information, they can go to moreclientsandcash.com. And there's actually, it walks you through the hidden profits that are going to be in the book, and has a custom GPT that will walk you through applying it to your business.
Awesome.
So that's a great way to get started and take some action.
I'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks, Stacey.
Thanks for having me.